at YouTube too, or sorry, booger. You can check me out on YouTube, JWP Tube, search me up. Check me out on Facebook at JWP Meta, and you can check me out on Twitch at JWP Stream. Also check out my Patreon for specifically related to the SynthEdit streams. This is advanced and competent, or rather expert and competent documentations at Patreon, or JWP Patreon, that's with 2 P's. Today I'm going to be looking at the SynthEdit help tutorial. So this is just walking through the different steps, possibly explaining some of what's going on. And enough said, let's do that. So I'm going to switch to SynthEdit screen here. I'm going to go help, SynthEdit help. I'm going to open this up and we'll get started. No, working with SynthEdit? No, tutorials and reference, there it is. So yeah, SynthEdit help, tutorials and reference, and SynthEdit tutorials, and then it opens this window. And there's no way to, oh yeah, there is, can zoom in. Okay, so we're gonna zoom in a bit here. So this likely should have been done a long time ago. However, I'm getting to it now, so here it is. This would be the manual continued. We have a few different things here. This is probably your first go-to video if you want to follow along with me, giver. I'm gonna be doing this as I go. Anyway, this tutorial will teach you the basics of working with SynthEdit. Hold on, I got my headphones in. And I don't really like hearing myself through a muffle. Alright, learn the basics. SynthEdit tutorials. This tutorial will teach you the basics of working with SynthEdit. The basics will guide you through the steps of building a very basic synthesizer. This tutorial will teach you how to create a new SynthEdit project, familiarize you with SynthEdit interface, how to work with modules and patch cords, how to add controls and set modules and set module parameters, how to play your sounds. Move through the basics by clicking the next button on top of this window, or by using the table of contents on the left to go to a specific topic or tutorial. I'm just going to change my output to speaker so I can hear things. Turn it up. Can I hear things? And there'll also be an echo back. I'm wearing a lavalier, and I'm not wearing any headphones, so any sounds you'll probably likely hear twice in this short delay. They should almost line up. They'll be off by a little bit, so it'll hardly be noticeable, but yeah. There will be a echo along with motorbikes and cars outside. Quality content. Starting a SynthEdit project. The first thing we need to do is create a new SynthEdit project. A SynthEdit project contains all the modules, controls, and patch cords that will make up our virtual synthesizer. Start SynthEdit. Select File, New from the menu. SynthEdit will create a new blank project for us to start adding modules to. So we're going to go back to SynthEdit and we're going to go File, New. Wow. Modules, plugs, and patch cords. Modules, plugs, and patch cords. And we see a picture here of a module, and we got a patch cord coming out of it, and a plug. These little areas, of course, they look different in the newer version of SynthEdit here. If we go and grab that same module, the oscillator, and we can see, you know, we have the, as I was explaining it, the module itself, and then we have the plugs, and of course, what comes out of it is a patch cord. A module can create or process audio or MIDI data, or it may be a control such as a slider or knob, or it may even be a complete synthesizer. The colored text on each module represents a plug, a connection that we can connect to other modules with patch cords. Adding an oscillator module. To make our basic synthesizer, the first thing we need is some kind of sound source like an oscillator module. SynthEdit has several different types of oscillator modules, but for now we just want a simple one. To add an oscillator module to your project, select Insert Waveform Oscillator from the menu, or drag it from the module browser pane at the left. SynthEdit will add an oscillator module to your workspace. This workspace is called the structure view, as it shows the structure of your synthesizer in all its modules and patch cords. So it was saying that you can insert things from here, but no longer is that an option. I do believe we still have the right-click insert. However, with the newer view, I'm not sure if that's still there. So we're going to go hold Shift and double-click, and we are now in the newer view. we can tell by the massive amount of space we have. And right click, no, we no longer have insert. So the only way to get to the oscillator module from the new structure view is to actually use the side pane. So we're going to drag and drop one in and minimize that. Make sure we got rid of the top layer one. As we can see, we don't have that much space as this is the older view. We'll shrink that down, we'll head back in here, and then we'll head back to our tutorial. Okay, so I believe I've read all that. Yes. Adding a sound out module. I see a picture here of oscillator, sound out module. The oscillator module produces a raw audio waveform, but in order to actually hear the sound, you need a sound out module. Choose input, output, out, sound out from the insert menu and add to the module. Position the module as shown by clicking on the module's title bar and dragging it. You may want to use the snap to grid feature to keep everything neat and tidy in the structure view. Edit, snap to grid. You can also add a module by right clicking in the structure window where you want to add the module and selecting the insert menu from the pop-up menu. And as we remember, that's no longer a thing. So we're going to maximize here. We're going to go sound out, input, output, sound out. And this is going to be quite loud. I do not have a ducker on, so I will be competing with the audio out. In fact, I'm going to go to my OBS screen, and we're going to drop this down a bit here. I'm going to go about -6. And that should keep it from blaring your ears out of your head, or blaring your ears into your head, however you like to look at it. Connecting modules with patch cords. Connect modules with patch cords. Now that we have two modules, we need to connect them together using a virtual patch cord. SynthEdit modules have both input plugs and output plugs. Input plugs are on the left of a module, while output plugs are on the right. We want to connect the audio outs of the oscillator to one of the inputs of the sound out module. Carefully click audio out connector on the oscillator module. Move the mouse to the first plug on the sound out module and click the mouse button again. SynthEdit creates a connection between the two modules and draws a patch cord for us. The patch cord will stay connected even if you move the modules around. Notice as you drag the patch cord over the sound out module, plug SynthEdit highlighted the plug. SynthEdit does this to show that you can connect the patch cord to this plug. SynthEdit will not let you connect two inputs or outputs together. If you try, SynthEdit will give you a warning message. So it's saying to do this, and then it's going to go buzz. It didn't go buzz. Why didn't it go buzz? Oh, because it's not on. Oh, okay. Playing the sound. Now that we have an oscillator module connected to our sound out module, we have the minimum we need to make some noise. So let's have a listen. Warning, the oscillator module produces a loud waveform. Turn your speaker's volumes down first. Click on the SynthEdit's play button, play, to start playing the sound. In version 1.2, click the circular power symbol. To stop the sound playing, press the stop button. You can also start and stop SynthEdit by playing by pressing the space bar. Okay, not exactly the most amazing sound, but it's a start. The oscillator module is producing a constant waveform and sending it to the sound out module. Seems like a good time to save your work. Choose File, Save from the menu, and we'll name our file tutorial.se1 before we move on. Alright, so we're going to push the power symbol here. Yes, and we get a loud, obnoxious beep, which is a saw waveform. And also we can use the spacebar. I'm not sure if that's still a thing. Not currently. I think it's just because we don't have this selected. I was sure this used to work. I must be missing something there. Some of the controls and stuff don't exactly work like they used to. Adding a control. Here we see a slider plugged into the pitch. In order to make our synthesizer a bit more useful, we need to be able to change the pitch of the oscillator. To do that, we want to add a slider module. Right-click just to the left of the oscillator module and choose Insert Control Slider from the menu. Let's do that. We'll just follow along because that's a big to-do list. So we'll go Controls, and then we'll go Slider, and then we'll drop that there, and then we'll move it over a bit, and we'll plug it in here. Connect the slider's signal out plug to the oscillator's pitch input. Push the play button or press spacebar to start playing the sound. To change the pitch of the oscillator, click the blue knob, and while holding down the mouse button, drag the slider up and down slowly while the sound is playing. Click on the stop button when you are done. Notice that the changes to the oscillator pitch happen in real time when you've moved the slider control. So we'll do that. I'm going to go. So yeah, it's a little bit cloudy. Just a quick demonstration. I hope your ears aren't bleeding too much. Module parameters. When we move the slider, we are using it to change the pitch parameter of the oscillator module. Most SynthEdit modules have several parameters that affect how the modules behave. These parameters are represented by the colored text or plugs on the module. There are 3 ways to change a module's parameter. Using a control module such as a slider to adjust the parameter in real time, such as an oscillator pitch. Using the module's properties dialog to directly set a parameter that won't change, such as the name of the module. Connecting the parameter of another module's output. So what it's saying here, using the control module such as a slider, that's what we're doing. Slider, and then using the module's property dialog. So that's the stuff over here. Say if we didn't have the slider connected and we have the pitch, and you see it's at 5, so that's that sound. And then if we go say 4, it's going to drop an octave, and it's never going to change. And we can go it all the way down. Oops, not all the way up. You can't even hear that, I don't think. All right, and this should be super low, probably unaudible. No, it's kind of a bit of a drag sound. And then the last one is connecting the parameter to another module's output. So, say if we took this oscillator and we connected, or we copied and pasted it and put the audio out into the pitch, then we can get some more crazy sound. And if we slow this down, let's say we'll bring the pitch down to about 2, we'll be able to hear something a bit more audible. Change the waveform to sine, and it's still noise. Let's try pitch of 1. It's still really low. Let's go negative 2.5 here. We'll really drop it. So it's got a bit of a beat going there. Negative 3. So what's happening here is that it is, let's go look at a scope somewhere if I can find one. Where is it? There it is. What's happening, let's cancel, let's break these because I don't feel like listening to it. I just want to show off the waveform here. And it's not showing me anything of any use. The pitch is following this line, so it's going up to +5 and then down to -5. But this is really fast. As a negative 2.5, it's a bit more audible. It's not modulating too fast where we can't tell. That's what was happening with the first couple attempts there. So yeah, connecting the parameters to another module's output. That was an example of that. Using the properties dialog. The second method of changing a module's property is to use a module's property dialog. Right-click on the oscillator module and choose properties to open the module's properties dialog. An SE1.2 the properties window hugs the right side of the screen. Just click the module once to show its properties. Click saw next to the saw next to the waveform property and choose pulse from the list. Change the module's title to OCC1 rather. Close the properties dialog. Okay, so it's saying click, and then we're gonna go pulse, and then we're gonna change the name to OSC1. And as we can see, it changed it up here. All right. Press spacebar or click the start play button to start playing the sound. The oscillator is now producing a pulse waveform, which sounds... Why am I out of space here? What's going on? Whatever. Press the space or click the start button to start the sound playing. The oscillator is now producing a pulse waveform, which sounds slightly different to the sawtooth waveform. Try listening to the other waveforms while the sound is playing. It would be cool if we could change the oscillator's waveform directly. I don't know if there's anything else down there. Alright, so we'll put the outputs back here and we'll bring in the slider. And we are now using just the pulse, so that's what a pulse sounds like. It's akin to video games, as video games generally use something called duty cycles, which is a pulse waveform. or a square wave. Say a 50% pulse waveform is a square wave or a 50% duty cycle. Yes, so adding a list entry module. Okay, so we have a list entry now plugged into the waveform, so we can change our waveform from the GUI. Close the properties dialog if it is open. We want to add a new control to our synthesizer so we can change the waveform. Right-click in an empty area of the structure view and add a list entry module. Insert controls list entry. Create a new connection from the choice plug on the list entry module to the waveform plug on the oscillator module. You can now select a waveform from the drop-down list. Resize the list entry module using the sizing handle at the bottom right if it's too small. Notice the SynthEdit has drawn a green patch cord and that both the choice and waveform plugs are also green. SynthEdit uses different colors of patch cords to denote different signal types. Green is used for list choices. SynthEdit will not let you connect different types of signals together. So we're going to head to controls and we're going to go list entry. As we can see, we got the green pot here and the green pot there. We're going to connect those. As it was saying that it won't allow connections, that it's not going to let me plug into the blue, right? Cannot connect these plug types directly. Example, you cannot connect a voltage to a file name. Consider using a converter module. This is true. However, there is some situations where it automatically converts. In older versions of SynthEdit, this wasn't a thing. So this is an integer, which is a number, and we're going to connect that to a volts, which it allows without a conversion. However, this is not the case in the GUI area. You still need a converter for the GUI stuff. For example, we're going to go subcontrols and we're going to go integer, and then for our other side, well, I guess we'll go spring. And if we try to connect our integer to the float, it's going to say no, cannot connect these plug types directly. You cannot connect a pin voltage to a file name. Consider using converter. So volts and floats are pretty much the same thing. And yeah, we need for this is the GUI. You can tell it's GUI with a lighter background. So yeah, we're going to finally plug this guy into that guy. And now we have access to our different waveforms. What's next? Okay, so it's not going to look at changing. We're going to play around a little bit here. I'm going to go sine, pulse, triangle. So that's really loud on my end. I'm just going to turn that down. For the sake of my ears, I'm pretty sure that's loud on stream, even though I've dropped it 6 decibels here. But yes, back to the tutorial, and we're going to move on to the next one, adding a filter module. That would be a great time to save your work. That's right, too, eh? So save often. It's a very good idea. And we're going to go, what would they call it? Tutorial1.se1. That'll automatically be added, so that's on my desktop. All right, so adding a filter. The oscillator provides a raw beginnings of a useful sound, but is not very interesting by itself. To make the sound more interesting, we will add a filter between the oscillator and the sound out module. A filter acts like a tone control, changing the timbre of a sound, or timbre, however you want to say it. Select a patch cord between the oscillator and the sound out module by clicking the cord. Press delete to remove the patch cord. Add a filter module. Insert filters, SV filter. You may want to drag the other modules around a bit to make room. SV stands for state variable filter. Add a second slider and connect everything as shown in the image to the left. If necessary, press play to start the sound playing. Experiment with the controls. Try different waveforms and adjusting the pitch of the oscillator and filter. Now would also be a good time to save your work. So we're going to do that. We want to head over here. We're going to go filters, I believe. Yes. And we're going to throw in a SV filter. Whoa. SV filter. This is going to look different from the picture here. Yes, because this is the newer version. I'm not sure why. I think it has, it has 2 stages. And then you select from the different ones, but the traditional state variable filters actually have, which is still here, this one. So that's the one that we see in the tutorial picture. we have multiple outputs and they all happen at once. This is generally for controlling, say, a tone knob type thing. So we're just going to use this one because it's more akin to the picture. Preferably you'd want to use the newer one as it's been updated for bug fixes and stuff. However, this is still quite reliable. And we're going to go back here. All right, so we want the low pass. It shows the picture of the low pass coming out. So we're going to go low pass to the 1 and a 2. And we'll see what that's. Oh, we need another control, right? Pitch. We want another slider, and this slider is going to control pitch of the state variable filter. So we are on to the summary. However, we're actually going to take up listen here. So we got a bit of a muffled sound now. What are we using? We're using pulse. And I lost my list. Where'd my list go? So we almost got the meow synth happening there. So the low pass, what the low pass does is it allows the low to pass and cuts the high. As we can hear, a lot of the high frequencies are cut. As we move up, we're letting more of them through. We move down, we know we're only getting that bass. Thus, it's called a low pass. We go all the way down, we're just cutting everything out. And the high pass is the opposite of that. But I'm not going to demo that. Congratulations! You have just built your first software synthesizer. This patch illustrates the basics of subtractive synthesis, removing frequencies from a sound rich in our harmonics. You now know the basics of working with SynthEdit and can add modules and connect them up with patch cords, set parameters using the properties dialog, and change them in real time using controls. The next tutorial will guide you through building more sophisticated synthesizers and will introduce more advanced topics. So that's going to be it for me today, as it took me forever to fix up my sound a bit and get things on the ball. Perhaps next time I'll cover the rest of them. However, for today, that's going to be it. And there's my wonderful live push screen, and we're going to throw up the exit card. So if you exit card, there we go. If you're watching this on YouTube, a like and subscribe is appreciated. And thank you for your time. Until next time.